Welcome to the Data Hall YouTube channel. In this video we are going to see how do we create a scatter plot that we can use in our publications. So this video is going to focus on simply on scatter plot. For that, let's import a data. We click on File, Example Datasets, and as usual we import our auto data. So we have our data installed. The way we create scatter plot is using this, we click on graph menu and then we use this two-way graph. Within parentheses you would see scatter and line, etc. Almost all of the graphs can be created using this two-way graph. We have our this dialog box. So how do we create a scatter plot? We click on Create. From the basic plots, we select scatter plot, and then we're going to select our Y variable. This time, let's say price is our dependent variable and MPG is our X or independent variable. We are going to see how mileage would impact the price. So let's select price as Y variable and X as MPG. MPG as X variable or independent variable. We might also want to sort it on X. Normally for scatter plot it wouldn't be an issue, but when we are creating line plot we should always check this sort on X variable. Okay, so let's click submit. We won't click accept, so by clicking submit this dialog box would remain open. We have our scatter plot and we can see that there is some kind of a negative relationship between mileage and price. As mileage increases, the price would decrease. But we would like to have a fitted line over this scatter plot. Let's click accept. And the way we are going to do is the two-way graph is a powerful command, and what this two-way graph would do is it would allow us to create one graph over the other. So we have already created a scatter plot, and you can see that this plot 1 is a scatter plot. It is scatter of plot of mileage and MPG, price and MPG. We want to create a line graph over and above this scatter plot. So we create another graph. Let's click create, then select fit plot, and from fit plot we select linear prediction. So let's assume that there is a linear relationship between mileage and price, although the data do not say so. We again select our variables and we click submit. So we would have a linear fitted line over our scatter plot, but we know that it isn't a better representation of our data. We would want to have a quadratic plot over it. So let's create another plot. Again select fit plot, but this time instead of linear prediction we should select quadratic prediction. Select again our Y and X variable and we hit submit. So we have got all the lines. So the idea behind this demonstration is that we can create as many graphs overlays as we want. But for now let's disable these two quadratic and linear lines and let's focus on the scatter plot, because this video is particularly related to scatter plot. So we click the plot that we want to disable, we hit disable, then whatever plots that we want to disable, hit submit. Before hitting the submit button it won't do anything. So you can make the changes in the dialog box and then you would have to hit submit button for them to appear in the graph. Okay, so let's play with the marker properties. These circles, these are called markers. So let's play with these marker properties. These markers are in this first plot, so we would have to hit click on the relevant plot, then we click edit if we want to make changes. And because we want to work with the markers, so we would have this marker properties over here. Let's add a label over these circles. So let's say if these are different cars, then what we can do is we can see which car is right here at the top and which one is this specific car. The way is we click the checkbox over here, add labels to the marker, and then we select the variable from where the values would be picked. This make variable contains the make of the car or the model of the car. Let me show it to you in the data view. So it is the name of the car, right? And then we have this another variable. I would use it also, this foreign variable, which says whether a car is domestic or a foreign. A foreign would have a value of 1. It is labeled, we know it from its blue color, that these foreign and domestic are value labels. So the values are 0 for domestic and 1 for foreign. So let's go back to our dialog box and let's select make of the car. We hit the submit button and we see that this value at top here is the CAD Savalac. Let's change the marker to foreign, and because I want to demonstrate some point, we can also change the color of the marker. Let's make it green, and we can also play with the size, the label size. This is changing the label size, not the marker size. We hit submit and the marker size would decrease and the marker the label size would decrease. Again, and the label color would also change. If we wanted to change the the symbol, the color of the symbol, then we would have to use this option over here. So let's make the marker red. It's right down here, and let's, instead of having these circles, let's have squares. So these would change the marker color, the markers symbol, the symbol that we are using. We can also play with the size or angle or opacity of the marker. So all the changes that you need to make to the markers are over here. And if I want to reset all these changes to the default, then I would simply hit this reset option. It would make the changes, but they wouldn't be represented over here because I would have to hit the submit button. So I have my original scatter plot without any changes. Let me show you one more thing, and let's add label of this foreign, so we would know that which car is domestic and which car is foreign. So the foreign car is the most at the right end, and the domestic car is the highest price car. Mostly we see domestic cars over here that are at the higher price end. But representing this category of foreign using labels, is it creates clutter, and it isn't giving us more clear information. Wouldn't it be probably a good idea that we have foreign cars having a different symbol or a different color, and the domestic car having a different symbol or a color? Let's again reset this, have our scatter plot as it was. But for that, we would have to play with the if condition over here. So let's say if foreign variable have a value of 0, then what we want is we want our markers to be square, so that they are different from the foreign cars. Remember, foreign equal to 0 means that these are domestic cars, and its current color, let's change it to say green. Accept. I'm not going to make changes right now. Let's accept this, and now I'm going to create another plot. This time again it would be scatter plot, price and MPG, but this time instead of foreign being equal to 0, I would select the another category which is foreign equal to 1, that means those are foreign cars. And let's change it to triangle and have a red color of these triangles. So when I hit the accept and submit button, okay, I made an error, and the error is that within this first plot, when I gave the condition, I didn't use double equal to sign. So we know that for equality would you have to use double equal to sign. Hit submit, and we have our graph. So these triangles are the foreign cars, and these green squares are domestic cars. Okay, so let's look at other things that we can do with this graph. Let's add title to it. Let's call it this graph presents the relationship of price and mileage. Let's hit submit. The title appears over here, but it's quite long. I would like to have it break down to the next line, and the way of doing that is we cover the part in inverted commas. So this of price and mileage would appear in the second line, right? So if you have a long title, you can do it like this. You can also have subtitles. So let's call it this is subtitle. You can have more innovative titles, and the subtitle would have a smaller font size. We can also add notes. So mostly we add source of the data. So this so the data source is the auto data set, and the note would appear at the lower end. Normally we use source in the note. We can also add the Xtitle. So instead of having mileage, let's give it a descriptive name, call it cars mileage. And let's have a descriptive, y axis title. Let's call it cars price. So we have our car price and car mileage. We can play with these labels, these x-axis or y-axis labels. Let me just demonstrate. If you want to change, let's say, color or the size, we can change the size, and also maybe let's make them these are currently vertical, let's make them horizontal. The size is reduced, the angle is changed. We can also do the same with the X titles if you want, or if you want, we can simply remove these white labels, and they are gone. So there are lots of options. It would be difficult to cover each option, but I would give you some idea the options that are mostly used. Let me give you one more example. Let's reset this all, and let's create a single scatter plot and hit submit. Let's use this by by option, we want to have two graphs for both the categories, that is domestic and the foreign category. And if we hit submit, we would have two graphs. So this domestic car, this graph is for the domestic, scatter plot is for the domestic cars, and this one is the foreign. We want also have a scatter plot of both the domestic and the foreign cars, so that would be add a graph with total as we had before. Probably we would also want to have a quadratic fit over these lines. So when we do this, it would automatically add this quadratic line on all the three graphs. We wouldn't have to do it manually for each of them. Right, so probably we can reduce the size of the Y labels, sorry. Let's reduce the size. Okay, so we have our nice looking scatter plot over here. Let me move to another data set because I want to demonstrate a point. Let's click on File menu, Example Dataset, and instead of having this auto data, let's have this auto R&D data. In this auto R&D data, we have mileage, but we have some categories, right? So let's say these are categorical, and if I tabulate this MPG variable, we would see we have around 7 categories. The issue with this categorical X variable is that when we create a scatter plot, let me reset this, when we create a scatter plot of, let's say, weight over MPG, because these are the only two variables that we have, we hit submit, we see all these values, but they are right at top of each other. We have 74 observations, but these 74 observations aren't shown in the scatter plot because we might have a car with that having 3000 weight and having 20 mileage. There might be multiple observations, so they are stacked over one another and we cannot draw a pattern. So a better option would be to add jitter. We click on marker property, then advanced, add jitter, and what it would do is it would add some random noise factor to it. So we would give a noise factor, and although the seed is optional, but if we want to, because this jitter would be random, this noise would be random, if we wanted to have the similar kind of graph next time, we would have to use the seed. So we'd use the seed, whatever number we gave. We hit submit, and so it added a noise to it. Okay, so till now we are working with the dataset which had 74 observations. So this is a kind of a small data. But there are certain challenges when we are working with the large data set, and let's explore those challenges that are there with the scatter plot. So we want to import a data which have more number of observations. One data set is NLSW88. We use this data. There are around more than 2000 observations. And the variable that we would be working with is the hourly wage and the job tenure, so the number of years of, say, experience. Let's create this graph. We already know the drill. We select our Y variable and X variable. Hit submit. We have our plot, and let's create a line fit and a quadratic fit also over it. Quadratic fit, same variables, Let's hit submit. Now it's difficult to make, but let me show you one more thing. Let's move this plot one down and again hit submit. What had happened is that these observation dots are at the front, and they have blinded the lines. We cannot see the lines, the quadratic and the linear fit lines. The reason is that the graph would show us the visuals on the basis of the order. The higher order would come first, because line 2 is and line 3 is coming first, and lastly we had scatter plot. So the scatter plot is blinding the lines, so we'd have to move it up. So probably to make these lines more visible, we would have to increase the width of the line. The option is over here, so we increase the width. Let's make it thick. Let's also make the second line, which is the quadratic line. We click options, then line properties, and then we select the width that we want. Hit submit, and now they are somewhat visible. We can also probably change their colors if we want to. Let me show it to you. Let's make it green. We can also change the pattern. Instead of having a solid line, we can have a dashed lines. So the quadratic would be the dashed line, and the linear fit would be the straight line. But no matter what we do, you would have got the idea that this graph doesn't look good, because there are a lot of these observations, and because of these lot of observations, nothing seems quite clear. There is one more way that we can use, and that is a user written command by the name of Binscatter. So we would SSC install this command, because I have already installed it, so I do not need to install it. You would use SSC installed Binscatter. So what this Binscatter command would do is it would create different bins. So it would divide the data into different bins. The default is 20 bins, and then plot a dot for the mean values of that specific bin. So for each bin, we would have one dot. No matter how many observations we have, we would have 20 bins. The default is 20 bins. We can change that. Now the issue with user written commands is that we wouldn't have them in menus, so we would have to use the command. So if we do scatter plot of wage and tenure, we would see that it would look like this. But let's now use Binscatter instead of scatter command. Select this command, hit run. And now you would see, although we have 2000 observations, but we have 20 dots on this scatter plot. And the reason is, I told you that it would create 20 bins and plot a dot over the graph for the mean value of that bin. If you wanted to have a quadratic line instead of linear line, which linear line is the default, we would use the line type option and use qfit. So we have a quadratic line. One more thing that you would notice is that the graph, the wages are increasing in quite dramatically in the early time period, but at the later tenures or with the higher experience, the increase in wage is not that much high. So the slopes are different. So what we can use is that we can use regression discontinuity option called RD, and let's discontinue it at 0.4. So we would have discontinued line. The dots would remain at the same place, but the line would be discontinued. We can also create it for different categories. So let's create it for the married and the single person, single individual, and we see that there is a less difference in the early tenures, but when we have higher experience, the married, which is red, would have less wages as compared to a single person. If you want to have a look at other options, then you can use help Binscatter, and we have ton of options. Thanks for watching the video.